a lot of us, especially expats, we then go down the other way when it comes to our home, and we deny ourselves, like, oh, I can't have this now. Like, there's no point in me investing in this home. I mean, I might stay here for a year or 2 years, and then I bought a couch, and I bought this, like, I'm not going to take this with me. This is going to be so complicated. I'm okay with just having IKEA. Okay with just having that. Like, we constantly deny ourselves that want for quality, like for this little bit of deeper connect, like caring for something a bit more deeper, because we might be just, oh, this is just, and then 1 year goes by, 3 years goes by, 10 years go by, and then we're like super surprised. It's like, I'm still living in a rental. It still looks like, yeah.
Welcome back. We are on today with my guest, Nic Scholtysik, on the 12th edition podcast. I'm Angie S., the founder of angies.com, link in the show notes, where I'm a health coach. If you want to work with me, you can get in touch via the website at angie-s.com or email me directly at hello@angie-s.com. If you want to support this show, and it's completely free for you to do, and it takes you literally half a second, please rate, review, subscribe to the show on iTunes or follow it on Spotify. For all the other platforms, whichever way you show love is how you can support this show. And again, it's completely free to do, and it really goes a long way to support this show. Today I brought Nic on to talk about what the sense of belonging and feeling at home really means and takes. The beginning of the interview is mainly around her approach as an interior designer to help her clients achieve this feeling of home and sense of belonging in their own home, which sets us up to then enter a deeper dialogue of what it really means. As we go deeper into the interview and talk about what it means to have an identity and lack of belonging, you will hear me getting triggered. I didn't see this coming. I've talked about seemingly much harder topics on this podcast before, but I guess this isn't really something I've really talked openly about, but it is something I felt some kind of way for the longest time. So I guess not really talking about it openly means that I haven't exercised those muscles on how to keep a better handle on my emotions when I do end up talking about it. I had my hesitation of leaving it in, but I guess I feel like it wouldn't be real, and it wouldn't show actually why I seek out that topic. So let's begin. Well, hello there, Nic.
Hello.
A big welcome to you. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, I'm so happy to be here, and by such a surprise. That went so quickly with the two of us. What a love story.
Yes, exactly. It was very fast. Basically, I brought you on because when we spoke yesterday for the first time about what a home worth having is and what a sense of belonging meant, I was really impressed at all the different angles and insights you had. And many of them I had never, even considered before. And so the reason I wanted to have you on is because, like many of us in this day and age, I have struggled with the sense of belonging and feeling at home my whole life. And I always equated it to being of mixed background, born in a country who had no ancestors in, a foreigner no matter where I went. But now at 41, I realized that you don't necessarily have to have immigrant parents or moved around as an adult as much as I have, or you have, or many other people have nowadays. It's so common now to have this sense of restlessness and desire to be at one with your surroundings. So I want to share your insights with my listeners who are, by the way, incredible. They're amazing. So before we dive into this, please introduce yourself, where you live and what you do.
Well, thank you, first of all, for this nice introduction. So my name is Nic. I am an interior designer. I live currently in Switzerland, and I'm a serial expat. So I am somebody who has ants in their bum and cannot stay long in one place.
Okay, so can you tell me, so just to give a bit of context, because now you are in Switzerland and you
Exactly.
say you have like ants in your bum and you keep moving around. So to give context, where tell us like where were you born? Like what's your heritage as well?
Okay, so my passport is German,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been born and raised in Germany by immigrant parents. And but even in Germany, I had an expat life because expat just means to be a displaced person. And since we were moving a lot, I was constantly the new girl. I grew up with not having a stable home as such. I had a house, I had a roof over my head, but I never had a place to call home. And I grew up this way. And I'm also, so being a child of immigrants, I am a, how do you call it, a third culture kid. And a third culture kid is somebody who has to, at a very young age, how do you say that best? Has to juggle different cultures. So my
Mm-hmm.
parents were from Polish background and they fled Poland and communism, moved to Germany, and they had their background. And I was already born in Germany. I had a part of my life happening in German with German culture, and then at home, this mix of cultures.
Yeah. And
And yeah, that is very special. That always feels, when you grow up, you feel very special, and it can feel very lonely. And then you grow up and you realize there's a lot of people who go through the same thing. And because we didn't know any better, we felt very lonely, but in fact we're not. There's a lot of people like us.
yeah, and it's interesting because your setup is slightly different to my setup. So you moved around a lot growing up, and I have a few friends who I know like they've had the same, and I don't know how they cope because that must be hard to every time being pulled away and having to make new friends, and it feels so transient, you know. So for me, we had the same flat the whole time, but as an adult, from when I was 18, when I left home, I then moved around, lived in in different countries, like 6 countries in total after I left Belgium. So, but I think that feeling, like you said, of like, the third, what was it called? Third culture kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt it very strongly at school. I felt it around, and even when, I don't know how you felt when you went back to Poland to visit. I don't know, did you go back to Poland to visit family?
Well, for the first couple of years we didn't, because my parents were officially traitors to the country, so they weren't allowed back into the country until I was 6 years old. So I met the rest of the family at school age. I was already in first grade, and that's when I met the rest of the family. And until then, my whole world basically just existed out of me and my parents. That was it.
Oh, wow, okay, so I didn't realize that was like it was actually a serious situation. Like, you moved to Germany for,
Yeah, so
like,
my
very good
parents had to,
reasons.
yeah. My parents had to flee the country because under communism they couldn't live the life that they wanted to. Obviously, a lot of people stayed, and obviously you could have had a life, but it didn't match their ethics and values. That's not the kind of life they wanted to have. So they had to flee. They had to have a pretext. They were pretending they were just coming back, and they just left with 2 suitcases, because if you took more, it was obviously you were leaving the country and they would not let you out. But they just left with 2 suitcases, and that was it. And now in retrospective, it was only 6 years. But in that situation, I can imagine it to be very hard, because you're leaving and you know that you're not coming back, and you
Mm,
don't know when or if you're going to see your family again.
it's heartbreaking.
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So, okay, so I didn't realize that at the time if you left the country, you weren't allowed to come back. So, can I ask you, like, I mean, if you don't mind, I mean, I'm 41. Can I ask how old you are just to get an idea of like,
I'm 37.
say 7? Okay, so I guess that was like in the 70s then they left, or at the beginning of the 80s. Yeah,
Yeah, they left in
yeah.
81, and they were allowed back in 88, 88,
Wow.
89. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So, wow. like you said some quite a few things here that that I want to talk about. And you said like a term that's very important. You mentioned there was like you always had a roof over your head, but you didn't really have a home. So like there's this juxtaposition of home versus a roof. And two, you mentioned like the term traitors. So those are quite,
Yeah,
I mean, those are strong terms, So
yeah, they
growing up
are.
like that, I wonder, is this kind of what has led you to do what you do today? Because because I know you said, like you're a designer, but you didn't really go into you more than just a designer. I mean, in my opinion,
Yeah.
can you, and nothing wrong being a designer, but what I mean is like you approach design in a very different way with your clients. So, which has a lot to do with like creating a home and a sense of belonging. So can you tell me a little bit, can you tell us like what it is that you do in your job? Because this is your background kind of explains a lot what it is that you do today, I feel.
Yeah. So I started a business. I for the longest time I was just an employee working for architects and planning interiors and working with clients. But then with my moving situation and deciding to change countries again, I eventually and becoming a mom, sorry, and becoming a mom, I eventually apparently I became unemployable on the Swiss market. People just didn't want me. I didn't have the right degree. I had two young kids, and I was basically forced into starting my own business. If I wanted to work, I had to start my own business. So, and then I decided to call my business a home worth having. And I'm very intentional about this because a lot of designers, a lot of architects, they are known for themselves and for their style. So there's a reason why I didn't call my business Nic Scholtysik Design,
Mm-hmm.
because I believe that your home should not be about my style. And that sounds as something like, ooh, very good marketing sentence, right? But it's true. Like, so when I started my business, I had the struggles as every entrepreneur of how do you brand yourself? How do you position yourself? And how do I market a design business that is not about a certain design style?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So my entire approach is about understanding the person at their core, what it means, what their values are, and what it is or who it is they see themselves become, and what they want their microculture inside their home to be like. Because we all have different values. And how do you want to live that? And how can I make your space serve you the best?
So I love what you just said, and it's interesting. So when we spoke yesterday, you discussed how there was almost like two types of clients. One type of clients, they really know what they want. It's very easy. They are your best referral, your advocates. You get emails weeks later, it's still going. How everything's like coming together, and they just really love it. They're just super satisfied. It's just really hit the point for them. And then you have this other type of clients who it's harder and they're never satisfied, and the proposals are difficult. And can you explain to us a bit like why that is? Why some people are just happy straight away, they know what they want, and the others don't, and it's very difficult for them to create this designing their home.
Yeah. So first of all, I have to say that most of my clients, even the one that are satisfied and become my fans and promote my work, are not necessarily people that know exactly what they want. They are just people who are open to explore what it is they want. So there's two
Ah.
kinds of people, and I think you can basically say that with everybody's talking about mindsets. Some people are more fixed, and some others are more open, more flexible. So if you
Yeah.
are more open and more flexible, you come in with an idea, and those people might say something like, "You know what? I have this vision. Like, I want to be that person that is kind of super elegant, but also with a tad of funky, and I want to have this lust for life, and I kind of want to show that, so I don't have to talk so much. Or they come in and say like, I'm super shy, I'm super introverted, and people stress me. And I would love to have a way of showing people what I'm about without having to say it all. And that's what I get. Okay, then we can work on that, because they come with an idea of who they are now and who they want to be, and how that their home can help them transmit the identity of who they are.
Yes.
And then there's people who come in and say like, I've been to a hotel in Dubai. This is a photo. I want my home to look like that. Find me something. And then they get very fixated of, let's say, a large brown leather couch, just to give you a random example. And they want this, and they've seen something like that, and then they want that. And then I'll be like, okay, let me see. I will research the manufacturer, and then I'll look at the plan. Does it actually fit into your house? And that very often, that's the most simple thing that happens, is like, that couch doesn't fit into your room. Even if it would fit, if you would get it through the door, it wouldn't look like that. It looks fantastic in that lobby, because that lobby is 300 square meters large, but your living room is 50 square meters. That it will never have the same effect. So tell me, what's the feeling? What do you like about, like, who do you see yourself being in, and what kind of feeling did that lobby in Dubai give? Was it the elegance? Was it the extravagance? Was it the luxury? Was it the feeling of freedom, of having so much space? What is it you like? Because then we can find a way of recreating that feeling. And then people get like, what are you talking about? What am I feeling? No, this is what I want. Serve me what I want. And then it's like, there's a wall. Like, I'm running into a wall. It's like, okay, we will not get this piece of furniture through the door. You are living in a rental space. We can't just crush a wall in order to restructure your home. Something's got to give. And then they're like, but no, then find another one that looks like that, but is just a bit smaller. And then people get very fixated on details.
Yes.
And it's really stopping them in their tracks.
Is it like because it's a look they're after and not a feeling?
I think it's more the idea of, what are you driven by? Is your motivation to change your home is it an outer motivation? Is it the idea that you have to project a certain image in order to be recognized, in order to feel good, in order whatever? Do you feel like you need to perform in a certain way in order to be accepted? Or is it more an inner drive? Are you following your intuition? Are you craving something that is like, is there something inside you that you can't express, that is something you really, really appreciate and you want to express it and live it? Is it built on your strengths, or are you desperately trying to weed out a perceived weakness of yours?
So do you think that, like, because there's like those two, obviously we're simplifying and generalizing here, but if we were to say like those two types of clients, because I want to get into like the psychology and the philosophy that we talked about yesterday, so the first client, open, so it's almost like they want their home to be a reflection of themselves, and they're very much comfortable with that, attuned to that, so they're open to suggestions that are aligned to their values. Where the second part is that resistance, and what I'm hearing from what you're saying is it almost like it's like they just want something that is going to look good, that people are going to like, it's like a front. So it's like, this whole, for example, Instagram glossy, people are getting into debt to get their house redone so that it looks good. They go into makeup debt. They go into traveling debt just so they can have those pictures taken. And it's like a outside in almost. So there is no, it's not aligned to even to the financial possibilities, not even aligned to them just being honest with who they are. You can't even be yourself because you crave so much the outside validation. And is that what you're seeing in those people?
Yeah, well, if you're really, really simplifying, it's that. But if I can give you an example, like that was my breakthrough moment that I had while basically having my first employment right out of university. So I used to work for this high-class architect with, clients that had 6-7 digit budgets for their projects.
Yeah.
So we're talking like,
the struggle
CEOs,
is real for them. The struggle is real. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So we are working with this law firm with 2 partners, and they hired us to find a new space, then design the space to represent those big shot corporate lawyers that they were and attracting the right clients.
Yeah.
Great. We did that. Super. And then 2 months later, after the project, one of the partners comes back and says, like, it was so easy to work with you. My wife and I were going to buy or build a new house. They weren't sure yet. I want you to make a design. And then we're like, cool, great. That's exactly what you want. So we work with exactly the same person, this hotshot lawyer who knows exactly who he is. And we go into his home and we see how he's living. We talk to his wife and his kids. And the way it worked with that architect is, so we as his 3 employees had to do a pre-work, a pre-selection. So we would all get the info and basically do mood boards. And then the architect himself would select what he liked best.
Oh, by the way, if people don't know what mood boards are,
it's just a selection.
Colors. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with colors, textures, lifestyle images, just get an impression. Basically a Pinterest board of what we would design for him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so my colleagues designed something. We all listened to the client. They designed something, and I wasn't happy. Like I designed something. I decided to design something completely different, go down a completely different route. And then we presented to our boss, and he's like, "What's that, Nicole? Are we talking here about the same client?" I'm like, "No, I just have a feeling that something doesn't sit quite right with what he said. I think what he needs is," and my boss started laughing and says, like, "We're not here to tell the client what he needs. Like, we're here to follow his whatever he wants. We're here to listen to the client and not to impose our style."
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so that's what I heard. And what in the end it was just a test, because he's like, I can't use anything of what you collected to present to this person. So we ended up then, we ended up designing his home very much according to what we already designed for his office, to the person that we already met, that corporate lawyer, of course, including his wife and his kids. But it turned out that he became a very, very difficult client. He was never happy with the results. It's like, no, he was never happy. This didn't fit, this didn't fit, this didn't fit. It was a pain in the ass until my boss came back to me and said, like, more or less out of frustration, but he was a very smart man, so he planned that move. He's like, you go and you present. Or I present him your mood board, which was something completely different.
So you went down and presented it?
Yeah, so my boss presented it, and the client loved it. And he's like, then the client asks, so how come that you're presenting now something that is so far off? And how come I'm even surprised that I like it?
Yeah.
And then my boss said to me like, well, it's not my design, it's my employees. And maybe she should explain to you. And he put me on the spot. And so I told him why I chose this design. Because, background info. His wife has an Asian background. So she was Thai. And so I didn't take it out of nowhere. The Buddhist Zen temple kind of affliction. But the thing was, he was our client. Not like when you work with couples, you work for the couple, but you have one go-to person. Mm-hmm. You always have one partner who's driving the project. And in his case, it was him. He was the one earning the money. He was the one who had the corporate design already done. He was the one who said, we need a designer in our private life. And then I fixated of something that was very much his wife, or what we thought was his wife. And then I said, and he's like, why? So do you think he was referring back to his wife? Why? And I'm like, this is not a design for your wife. This is a design mainly for you, because what I saw when we came into your home and you interacted with your wife and the kids, you were not being the lawyer that we met before. And I believe that you appreciate this design because it reminds you of the person you get to be once your wife pulls you back and tells you, whoa, dude, you're not in the office anymore. You're here with me. Pull it back. So when she pulls in the reins and tells you what you are not okay, you appreciate that she is bringing out a side of you. And mm-hmm. I believe you have so much love for her. So on the one hand, you want her to be happy in her new home, which is Germany. But on the other hand, you wouldn't be the successful person you get to be in this other environment if you didn't have that contrary pole to come back to and be somebody else.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because basically you did something, you read him, and this is why your design is different. You're not just design. This is why you call, a home worth having, because actually design, it's great to have things that are pretty and beautiful, but it has to feel like home. And so from what I understand is that from that moment you understood that people, they may say what they want, but you have to give them what they need, right? And there's this fine balance. And so what you understood is that in that moment, that it's so important to have a home that reflects something different. It has to reflect something different than just design. It has to reflect, what would you say, like a part of your soul, or what you desire, like what you are aiming for, like, because it sounds like a mixture of a few things. What would you say?
It is just really, you can call it your core, you can call it your soul. I say it's the values and the identity that you see yourself, the person that you see yourself being. A lot of people talk about, your best self, but that's exactly, and it sounds so, my best self, like life is hard. When do I get to be my best self? No, dude, it's work, man. It's work. And nobody says it's going to be easy. But if you don't have that idea of that clear image of who you want to be and how do you want to feel, then you'll never get there. Like you can just set one step in front of the other and just start walking and end up wherever and be cool with it. That's cool. If that is only cool if you are that relaxed, laid-back person who says, I'm about being spontaneous and not getting... But if you are a driven person, if you are driven, then you need something to drive towards too. So, and there's no way of denying yourself of who you are and what you need is, because I always say on the bottom of every healthy want is a need.
Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit?
how do I start? If we go back to that guy, to that hotshot lawyer, I mean, why are humans the most successful, most advanced mammals on Earth? It comes to our ability to connect to others, to learn to trust others, to work as a group. And in our society, the best leaders are the ones that can delegate, and you can only delegate and lead and let go of having to do it all by yourself if you're secure enough inside yourself to know that things will be okay, even if that other person you delegated to screws up.
Yeah.
And that it's not a reflection of yourself. You might have to take responsibility as a leader. You will still have to supervise, but it doesn't say you are a bad person because this guy chose the wrong color or this guy
So how does
drove
this
into a
relate?
tree.
How does this relate to a want is at the core of it is a need? How does it?
Yeah. So what do you think where this inner security comes from? This inner security comes from you need to know how to be on your own side, how to stand up for yourself, you need to know yourself enough so you can say, I care about this, and I can draw lines and boundaries. And it's all this give and take, this finding the balance of how much do I let things, affect myself, and how much how do you say that? Other people's failure are not a judgment of yourself.
So
and the thing is, we build this inner security when we are kids. Hopefully our parents did that, but even if they didn't, we're now adults. It's a sign of maturity to build it for yourself, to be your own best advocate, to have your best interests at heart.
There's a lot of. It's like it's like my head is like split. There's so many good things you said. I feel like I need to like almost like recap what you just said. Are you saying that with the wants and the needs is like, so basically that at the bottom of everyone is a need, and in a way for us to honor that need, to be able to honor it, is we have to know ourselves. So we have to know what we want. We have to know what our boundaries are. We have to know this. So we have to know ourselves. And from that, once we know ourselves, we know what we want. We know what we need. So we know what we want. And in that sense, but then there's two levels, right? Because there's knowing that, but then there's also then being okay with it. So because a lot of us, there's a distinction between being able to hear yourself, hear what you want, hear what your soul needs and crave, and what you need to be whole. And it kind of sort of relates back to the home, right? The sense of belonging, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But so there's this willing to hear yourself, listen to yourself, but then you have to also trust that it's okay to do it. And I think the minute we don't, and I'm guilty of it too, the minute we don't trust what it is that we know fulfills us, makes us happy, it is self-neglect. It is self-neglect. And if we can try and remind ourselves that, it makes a big difference. But it is not easy. And I think maybe I feel like that is almost like what we explained to me yesterday with the designing of the clients, is that when it's so difficult for people to be open or to just, when it was so difficult for people to, they just, the proposals, they're never satisfied, and they can't, they're undecisive. Maybe it comes from a part of maybe of them not knowing themselves, or even if they do know themselves, they don't trust that is good enough, that is worthy to listen to. And so they worry about having this image, or they're like, I want that leather couch that was in the Dubai lobby. It's an outside thing instead of like an inside thing.
I think it comes down to we get very confused with what a healthy want is, because we all know that we want stuff. If we want to eat, then it's because we're hungry.
Yeah.
If we eat even though we're not hungry, it becomes unhealthy. Like, we start binging. There's like this, like, what is healthy? And there's always two reactions to any want that you have. Some people overindulge and some people restrict themselves. And actually we all do both all the time. So if I'm not so much into fashion, but if I said, like, I want to come across as really elegant, as really sophisticated, then I need to concentrate on the right things, because I could just go in and buy every month so and so many clothes and go to H&M. And I don't want to, say H&M is bad or something, but I could go for, let's say, fast fashion and be really trendy and be every month something else and surprise people. But is that my definition of sophistication? For some people that might be, but for me, that would rather be, since I'm not so much into fashion and I'm not comfortable with having constantly to think about that, I would once decide on how I want to come across and then buy 5 things that are more expensive, or save up the money and buy each month just 1 piece instead of 10 pieces. And so we need to define what is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of us, especially expats, we then go down the other way when it comes to our home, and we deny ourselves, like, oh, I can't have this now. Like, there's no point in me investing in this home. I mean, I might stay here for a year or 2 years, and then I bought a couch and I bought this. Like, I'm not going to take this with me. This is going to be so complicated. I'm okay with just having IKEA. I'm okay with just having that. Like, we constantly deny ourselves that want for quality, like for this little bit of deeper connect, like caring for something a bit more deeper, because we might be just, this is just, and then 1 year goes by, 3 years goes by, 10 years go by, and then we're like super surprised. It's like, I'm still living in a rental. It still looks like, if I always say, so if your home would burn down while you are at work, I mean, it would suck, right?
Mm-hmm.
No denying.
Yeah.
It would suck. Like, insurance and money and all that, that
nightmare.
Would suck.
Nightmare. Yeah.
But would there actually be anything in the home that is irreplaceable to you?
Well,
I'm not talking about human damage. Like, most likely we would, like, if I would give you then an all expense paid IKEA card, would you be like, yeah, I'll take that? Like, I can go, okay. Oh, that sucks. But you give me, like, okay. Would it hurt if your home burned down? Like, would it hurt you? Because I think that's a good sign that you care, that you love this place, you invested yourself, you feel connected, you feel like you belong, like this is yours.
Well, you see, this is really interesting, because I hear what you're saying, but I looked at it differently. But I can also see why it hasn't been good for me to be thinking it slightly differently. So when you ask this question, what would you miss? For me, would be photographs, like, from before we had, like, digital photos, like all the pictures. I have some journals from when, stuff I've written down. There are letters from family, boyfriends when I was younger, that kind of stuff, like things that you can't replace with money, and things that if they burn down, I can't replace those pictures because there's like old film stuff. So that would be, but actually I used to pride myself to the fact that if it burns down, the material stuff, I can just replace it. It wouldn't matter, because none of them are expensive. I think, apart from like my Vitamix blender, that kind of stuff, I've got a very good kettle that does different temperatures. I've got a few items like that, but everything else, literally, I could get rid of it. I wouldn't miss it. But what it has also meant is that I'm like, I go home and I like my flat, but it doesn't feel like a grown-up home. Sometimes it doesn't feel like a reflection of me, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's not a reflection of how I want it to be. And I have also realized that because I'm renting, I used to always go, why invest in expensive wallpaper? Why, and also, the owner is like, you can only put 2 shelves up, they're just so annoying. But it's like, so there's so many restrictions, but then I also restricted it myself and like, well, what's the worth in investing if I don't intend to stay here? Because I may want to move somewhere in the countryside, have pets and stuff. But what it means is that whilst I'm here, why not make the most of it and make it a reflection of me, make it feel at home, especially when we work from home. It's important to feel at home, right? So I see what you're saying. Like whatever I was priding myself on is actually working against me because it is not a reflection of who I am, where I live, really.
Let me get quickly back into that, because you said you would miss the photos and the letters and that's normal. And why? Why would you miss them? Because it's invested. Part of me.
It's my history.
It's invested. You had this memory. You had this experience, and it doesn't matter what's on the photo. If it's from a hike or from a party with your friends when you were 18, it's you were there. You lived a life, and you captured this moment. And you, even if that was a little effort, because in the end, everything that is worth having, you don't perceive it as effort. You do the work. You went out with your friends, you kept the contact, you lived this life, you got invested, and then you have this piece of memory in it. And your home, when we grow up and we're adults, life is not so much in the quantity, it's not so much fun anymore. And we have to work, and there's all these how do you say that? Obligations, that's the word I'm looking for. All these obligations, and it feels like a must. And if you go home and it's like, oh, I must make this a home, then friend, I'm sorry, like that's not fun. I wouldn't do that either. Like, but if you get to have this home, and I'm not saying if you are an expat, you don't know how long you stay, get it all done for 50,000 or 500,000, whatever the number. Don't do that. Just pick something, get invested, so that when you leave, you will want to take a picture of how this house looked like. Or when you talk like, oh yeah, that was back in London, and I had this tiny flat, and it was really way too small, but I love that corner, and I made it. And you have this, like, when you go back to it in your memory, you get invested. You reinvest yourself in that memory that you had, and you reinvest in that life that you live, because that's it. Memories, all these things that we keep that are really dear to us. I'm a designer, and I have absolutely no design furniture in my home.
You mean no designer furniture?
No, nothing.
Like
if I showed you a picture, I can share it with you. I put a blog post up about this. My couches in my living room are pallet couches that I painted. And why did I do that? Because I'm a mom, and motherhood and parenting doesn't come easy to me. There's a whole nother story, but that it's really hard. And I needed to have a home that serves me, so I'm not so tense with my kids, so I can let go. So I have these, I made them look really pretty. And when people come in, they're like, what do you say? Those are pellets? No way. Like, they look a bit, it's a weird piece of furniture, but nobody thinks it's pallet couches.
Yeah.
And they're like, but my kids can jump on it. They can throw stuff. Like, I don't have to care. Like, I can take the covers off. I can wash it every week if I want to. They can jump. I don't have to carry, like, I don't have to worry that things will spill, that kids will fall over, that the piece of furniture might fall over. Hell no.
Yeah, it's practical.
Is it something? Yeah. Is it something like, do I want something? Of course, I'm a designer. I love beautiful things. If would I choose something else? Yeah, probably. And I probably, like, in 2-3 years when they're off the stage. But for right now, this is the perfect living room, because I can just, let the boys be boys. Let them throw pillows. Yeah. Let them jump on it.
So I guess, because I guess like you said, like a home is I guess it's almost like not just a reflection of ourselves, but it's I guess it's also a reflection of where you are in life. So like you said, like you have those pallet couches so that your kids can just jump on it. You're not going to be worried they're going to damage it or stain it. It's easy to
Yeah.
maintain. And yeah, it's funny because like for me, like I think as well, I'm like, I would have like a huge couch and a dinner, and I'd have a dinner table, but I can't have that because I'm in a studio flat. So I have to have like a desk I can work with the microphone set
Mm.
up and whatnot and different things set up. So it's like, yeah, it's that you have sometimes like there's a compromise, but it has to at least feel like it's serving what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by being fixed on an idea. Because let me tell you, if you have a budget of 50,000 or 100,000 or whatever the number in order to do one room or one house or whatever, it's easy. It's easy to have a beautiful home with a lot of money. Try
Mm,
doing that with a little.
I know. Yeah.
And the thing is,
Mm.
so many people get then upset because, like, oh, I will only do it once I can do it all, or once I can afford, up to perfection until the last nail with the last piece of art is hanging and everything is Elle magazine picture perfect. That's not how life works.
So how
Like
would
by
you?
the time,
Yeah.
yeah, by the time you start with one room and it takes you so much time, and then you move to the next and to the next and to the next. And then by the time like something else might happen, you might move. Like we all know life happens. Like I want you to care, but I don't want you to get hung up on details.
So let's go into this conversation when it comes to whether we want to call it expats or immigrants, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like for anyone who's not from, so anyone who's moved to a different place, a different country, if we use that as an umbrella, how would you then, how do we feel at home? How do we feel a sense of belonging? Because that's something that you go into. So I love to get your insight on that.
Yeah, so I like to give you the example. If a Spanish person moves to Sweden, does he or she stop being Spanish? No. Do they ever be like entirely Swedish? No. The thing is, we left for reasons, for whatever, if you wanted
Mm,
to or if you had to. The thing is, you made a decision and you leave certain things behind, certain things you want to leave behind,
yeah.
and certain things you want to take with you and you want to keep on. And I noticed, because most of my clients are expats that have kids, and once they have kids, they realize they were for so long, they were so cool with things being random, things being like, because they felt secure inside themselves, like they knew who they are. But then all of a sudden they have this little person and they have to form this little person. And that's when they go back and remind them, like, what formed me? Oh, what I really liked about my home, about my culture, is how we used to sit in the patio as a family till late at night, and there was a fire going on. Like, okay, in Sweden, I'm Spanish. We did that because it was, Spain climate is different than in Sweden. How can I bring that togetherness, that feeling of the entire family sitting around in the patio and everybody being equal and kids being up late? How can I feel this feeling of equality and togetherness and unity? How can I bring that into my home? So we make very conscious decisions. And once you start thinking about that, it all comes back to, what do you value most? What has impacted you? And how can you recreate that experience? And the thing is, you will never have it exactly the same way, because the climate in Sweden is not the climate in Spain. There's nothing you can do, but there is something that you can do differently to evoke the same kind of experience and emotion and the lasting memory.
Or maybe it could be like, would this, for example, like I'm trying to think for myself, like, maybe it could be something that you like from one culture, like that, it could be something, for example, for me, it could be like some stuff like some Danish design. It could be something, a bit more Arabian, from the Algerian background. I can do a mix and I just have like some little pieces. Like it could be
exactly
like it's a candle holder that's a Danish candle holder, and then a different candle, something else like that's a bit more.
Yeah, but in the end, it's not about a candle holder. It's not about the Arabic tiles. It's about the mix. Yeah, it makes it like the mix. What it makes, like how it looks together is like this reflection. Is basically this mood board of what your life, what your influences are, and what you love about it.
This is so interesting because I find it like I hear everything you're saying, but I'm like, I feel like it's like I can feel like I'm literally like struggling inside trying to think about how that would look like for me, because I think
because you're already one step further ahead. You're already you're searching for pictures, you're searching for visuals.
Yeah.
If we would work together, I would ask you, okay, so what is it? What are your most cherished memories? And that's the thing that becomes weird to talk to a designer, right? Because it's like, you're not my therapist. Like, why would I talk about, like, you don't need to give me specifics and you don't need to give me details. But as I said, that example of the Spanish person living in Sweden, or let's go back to my own example with the pallet couches. Like, parenthood is, as I said, is hard for me. And one part of why it's hard for me is like, I used to always be so independent, so on the go, being able to live and leave whenever I wanted and do. And I love my kids, but I feel very, very, kids make you, like, you can't do this because I want the best for my kids. And that means staying put in one place, not uprooting them. But at the same time, who would I be to deny myself, to not acknowledge that I have this need of having a little bit more independence and not being constantly so, like, this worrying that kills me. I never used to worry because I knew inside of myself, like, I'll manage. It's just me. And now I have these little ones and I need to, whoa. And it's just, and I have this constant pressure of being responsible. And that's not a bad thing, but it still evokes, who would I be to not acknowledge the feeling that there is pressure? So why would I then invest into a super design? Like, if I would not have design in my life, I would crave it. But that's my work. I do beautiful designs for other people. I'm okay with having pallet couches. And like this just little piece of letting go, not having to worry if they are not having to supervise them all the time, being okay, knowing that even if something happens, like, they don't fall hard. Like those pallet couches are 30 centimeters high. But if something spills, that's okay. Like, I can, like life happened. And it's giving me this little bit of relief that I don't have to be there with them all the time, seeing every move and worrying, will something happen? Is everything going to be okay? I hear them scream in the other room.
But actually, I think what I'm trying to say is it's slightly different in the sense that I don't think this is weird because I didn't expect to feel so I just need a second.
Yeah. But see, that's the reaction I often have with my clients. They get to a point where they're like, need a break and need to come back.
Yeah.
That is how, and some people don't come back. They're like, woman, you're just too complicated. You're overcomplicating it. And others are like,
no, it's just because
something.
No, it's just because I know why, but it's it feels really odd and it's hard to explain, I think, unless someone's, I guess, for fuck's sake. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that because is that, you know, we talked yesterday about the sense of belonging, and that's what I don't have because I'm not. So I'm half Algerian, but I grew up with my mom who's Danish. So I don't actually have any claim really to that heritage. I don't really know much about it. And I think there's always been a great disconnect. And then the Danish side, I was never really part of it. So now I'm here when you say about what defines you, I think for some of us it's it's doing something different. I mean, just maybe.
Okay, I know where you're going. Let me tell you two things. So belonging is not just one word. It's like this simple word for such a complex thing, right? So belonging has different elements. Belonging means you are given the opportunity to participate. You are being accepted, you're being let in by others. But also belonging doesn't just happen to you. It's not just by others because we do belong. So it's something active, it's an action. So we need to get invested. We need to have the feeling to contribute. And contribute is not just doing something and then throwing it out. Contribute means having something of value, being appreciated for it. So on which level do you feel disconnected? It might be a little bit on both. Are you not being let in? Or are you living,
No, I'm completely
not.
In
the sense of yourself, like, I could be doing more and I'm not living in my integrity. So it's, it's something on my side.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both, but definitely not. Yeah, I've definitely not let in 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes you need to let in a lot more before you are being let in by others. And then the other thing is,
yes,
with feeling that you have no claim over the culture. You said you grew up in Belgium, but your mom was Danish and your dad was Algerian. Mm-hmm. So that makes three different cultures.
Yeah.
And there's no whole thing. Like there's these bits and bobs and pieces of different things. And you have a claim over your personal history. You have maybe no claim about Danish lifestyle or Algerian lifestyle or whatever, Belgium history, whatever. But the beautiful thing is, so when I get to be asked, when people ask me, so where are you from or who are you? Like they want a very specific answer.
Yeah, I never know how to answer that.
And the thing is, so what I learned to say is, I am not one of them. I am not one of the Swiss. I am not one of the Germans. I am not one of the Australians. I'm not one of the Americans. All those countries and places I lived in. I am all of them.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
I have the privilege. And this is where we need to separate. That's why I don't like the term immigrant, because if you label yourself immigrant, you always live with the stigma of having been forced.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And nobody forced me. Like I chose this. I have the privilege to be all of them, not entirely, but bits and bobs, pieces here.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that's why I never call myself an immigrant either. Like, I was like, we were saying earlier, I guess I could like theoretically, but I never always say expat because I feel like there's empowerment in the words you choose. And I think I've always had I've chosen to be here. I've chosen to live in the different countries. I have always had this choice. So, but I think also had I been so hung up on if I had been too hung, I think for the longest time I was very hung up on my history, and I think I had a chip on my shoulder, and it was disempowering me. My attitude was disempowering me, and I had to learn, that actually, people don't really care. They just they either they like you or they don't for who you are. And you just have to take ownership of who you are. And those who love you, they'll stay. Those who don't, they won't. And that's perfectly fine. But I think when we go around with this heaviness and this chip on our shoulder, we make things harder and we blame what happens in our lives because of our history or whatever it is, and whatever happened in your life. And those aren't really conversation I will have here, but it's just, I think, I think we definitely have to, like you said, with the words expats. And I feel also I always feel like I'm European. I feel like I'm a world citizen. And so I think, maybe I need to own it a bit more.
It's just really hard, because in the bottom we know that we are world citizens, but people are not satisfied with that answer, and we want to give them satisfaction. We want to please them. So they're like, yeah, but where are you really from? I'm like, okay, so my passport says I'm German, but I lived for 18 years in Germany, and I've now lived 18 years outside of Germany. So by May this year, I will have been longer a foreigner than I have been a native. Yes. So I say I'm a local. Currently, I'm local to Switzerland.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm a local too. local to London. I guess it's accepting where we are in life, and just it's interesting how emotional talking about home design can be. I did not expect this. I've talked about many very touchy subjects on this podcast, and I have not broken down once. Not that I think, anyway. I may have felt a lot. I've always felt a lot, with a lot of my guests, and with their story, and it touched me and all of that. But I have always managed to keep my cool in a way.
Well, then I'm feeling honored.
Yeah. I want to round up with some practicals, because so we've talked about all of this in the sense of belonging and how important it is, and the dilemma we come across from it. And so what tip would you give someone to help them feel at home now, like in their flat or house?
So I always start with know thyself. Know what it is you want and know what it is you need. And we often get confused with the words, I want this, but you need something else. And actually what you need is what you want. Well, it gets complicated. Anyways, create the calmest, least distracting environment for yourself, at least one room. Like, have it be just less, and then spend a lot of time there and see what happens. Because if you don't get distracted, there's the cookbook I wanted to, my friend gave me, because I'm into Japanese cooking. How do I do it? I don't get around it. I don't we build these little things build pressure, the regrets we build, like the things that we haven't done yet. And a lot of people think it's super inspiring. I have this, they need to have this picture of a Thai beach because that's where they want to go. And they think it's an inspiration. And if it is, it's great. But if it's starting to build pressure, this year again, I don't have the money to go to Thailand. I really want, I can't. And you keep longing for this thing. So I'm going to go into shameless self-promotion here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Cut it out if you don't need it. Go ahead. But I made this guidebook for people about design, how design can help you calm your mind, wind down, and how to create this, at least one space that is super, calm, minimalist, and that gives you time to breathe. And because we need time to wind down, that doesn't happen when you close the door. It doesn't go snip and I'm somebody else. No, you need time, and you need to give yourself, you need to get into the practice of winding down at the end of your day. So it goes, the more you practice it, the faster it goes. And then once you get to the stage where you get bored inside your home, And that sounds weird, but it is super hard because we're always so busy. There's always so much to do. There's always this next thing. If you get to a point where you are bored, when you're like, boy, man, what am I going? Yeah, I think I have still that cookbook from my friend. If you get to that point and you have this without being triggered, like, oh, the book is standing there. I should really be doing this because I said I wanted to. I said I'm interested. I'm not, man, who am I for not holding up my word? If you get triggered without seeing that, then it's something that really interests you. Then it's something that brings value to your life. That's something that you crave. That's something you want to have this experience of whoever you are when you get to eat Japanese food or cook Japanese food or whatever.
So where do we get your guide? How do we get hold of your guide?
You just go to my website, which is homeworthhaving.com, and you sign up. You will have a pop-up with the guide coming up. You sign up and you'll get it sent to you. And it's a design guidebook, like a workbook. And it has not one single piece of, I say, you need this or you need that. It's really just how do you move in the room? It's very psychological. Think about how you perceive a room. What can you do without spending money in order to get more comment? Spoiler alert, it's a lot about, taking stuff away. And then once you crave it, you need it in your life. That's a need that you need to fulfill. And if you spend a year or 3 years without even looking at it, even remembering that it's there, it's something that the next time, you move house and you see that, you can get rid of, because you can say, like, I wanted to do this. I thought I would. Like, I'm old enough to admit I will never get to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. And does that mean that sort of helps you get a sense of belonging in your place? Or would you have other tips for that?
Well, it is really about listening to yourself and like really listening inwards. And since this is really hard to do, we need to be very strategic on how we get there and how to giving us the white space, those time and space to actually experience that, and not. Because I don't know, like, when was the last time you got bored? Can you recollect? Can you remember? Because for me, I always have something popping up. Oh, I could do this. And even if it's just doing household chores, like, when do we get to the point of like sitting there, like, I've got nothing to do. There's nothing to like.
So are you saying that once you get to that point where you feel bored, that's where you can then add stuff, like, for what you need to then not feel bored?
That's just a way. It's just one of the examples I chose. It's just, how do you make that? We need to have a system in place of how to categorize of what is important and what is not. Like, we have so much going on.
But what do you mean by what's the advantage of feeling bored? What were you saying? I'm trying to understand. What is it you're trying to get to?
When you get bored, is that feeling of there's not, like, I have like this serenity of there's nothing else I can do right now. It's all been done, or I don't have to. I could wash my windows, but I don't have to. So what do I do with this time? Like, and then that's when we get to listen. And then we always interpret with when kids come, like, oh, I'm so bored. They want to be entertained. But when you get to this point as an adult, like, there's like, what do I really want to? That's when it gets fun. That's when it gets like, what's my craving? Like, what do I want actually? I could go for a bike ride, or I could read a book, or I can, like, and then you like all these things come up, and it's like, but without being visually triggered. Because if you have constantly people saying like, oh, Angie, we could go for a walk, we could read a book, we could start a book club, we could go sign up for a race, we could go shopping, like, then I am giving you, that's outward, like, I'm bombarding you with information. When that comes from within you, they're like, there's so many opportunities. What do I always say? You make a natural choice. And that's just one of the examples I'm giving you.
Okay. In my mind, I was trying to go, okay, so when you're bored, you then come up with an idea for designing in your house, but you meant
Yeah,
on a
that
different
too.
level.
Like for
Yes.
me, yeah, because I'm a designer. Like what do I actually feel like, and then I come up with something else, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really hard to let go of the must do's.
Yes.
If you don't make a conscious decision of, I don't have to or must do anything right now. This time is just, try sitting still in your office with no music on, no radio to distract you. Just not turn your computer off and just sit for 5 minutes still without doing anything. It's so hard. Try meditating when you've never meditated. Like counting your breaths is not, it's so hard.
Oh yeah. When you begin, when you start off, it's so hard. Yeah, it is so hard. So Nic, I always ask these 2 questions to all my guests. What would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I think I would tell my 18-year-old self that you'll be okay. Whatever happens, you'll be okay.
Yes.
You can't have all in life, but you can have everything you want. So be sure to know what you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's deep.
You can't have all. You can't have it all, but you can have everything you want. So what is it you want?
Yeah.
And the thing is, my life, the thing that I know to be true is that we believe we want so much, and in the end, it's not. We all have 1, 2, 3 things that we want, that we really, really want, aka need.
Yeah.
And really cherish. And when you have that, life is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, I guess then you feel more complete and fulfilled and just at ease, almost like this calmness, I imagine.
Exactly. It's this inner confidence of like, make the distinction.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can have everything. You can't have all, but you can have everything you want.
Yes. I like that. And so the second one is, what stuff do you not put up with anymore?
Perfection. And that's really, it's almost hypocritical to say that. Because when I talk to my clients, I'm not interested in your perfect you. I'm not interested in your perfect life. I'm not interested in giving you an perfect interior. I'm not interested in having perfect friends. I love intensity. I love passion. And passion always comes with a certain amount of messiness. And that's cool, man. That is it's not just cool. That's what life is.
Yeah. So this has been so interesting, Nic. It definitely went to corners I didn't expect. And so thank you so much. And can you please tell us where people can find you?
Yeah. So wherever you go, and I should precise, it's just Instagram and just Facebook and just Pinterest, because I can't deal with more.
That's already a lot. That's plenty. That's plenty.
Yeah. So I'm a home worth having everywhere.
Okay.
And actually, if you find me on Pinterest, you will find an extensive library of cool stuff designed, because I'm not using Instagram like as promoting my stuff, but rather of collecting. And I'm really thorough. I have all these folders inside folders of really sorted stuff. So if you need interior design stuff, go to Pinterest, find me there, and then you will have all kinds of categories in all my folders and subfolders, and you can get very precise of what you need and what you want to find.
Perfect.
You'll probably find it.
I'll put all the links in the show notes as well. So thank you so much for today, Nic.
Thank you. It was a pleasure to be here, and it's been very interesting to be on the other side of the microphone for once.
And I'm glad we popped that cherry together. So cool. No, that's great. Thank you so much. Bye.
Ciao.
And that's our episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe on iTunes, follow on Spotify, for all the other platforms. Whichever way you show love is how you can support this show. Drop me your questions or suggestions for future episodes via the website at angie-s.com, or come and find me on Instagram. I have 2 accounts. One is Too Old for This Shit Podcast, and the other one is Not Too Old For with the number 4. Links in the show notes. See you next week, and until then,
Using health inappropriately.